And thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jacqueline. Nice to meet you.
So nice to meet you too. I'm glad we got the connection going.
Hi, Rain.
Hey!
Yay! Oh my gosh,
we're in here.
Thank God. Sorry about that. Yeah, for some reason, IG Live, they do these Instagram updates, and it's the one thing they forget they still do, and we still love doing these. So let me see if I can get Sophia. I haven't seen her yet, but I'm gonna try her one more time to see if I can get her Instagram handle on there. Jen, if you're watching, if you want to send her a little click, but I just added her too. But thank you, ladies, so much for being here. First of all, I have to say an apology. I'm going to give you both an apology because I did not know about this show before we booked this interview. Apologies. I didn't know about it. I'll be the first to admit it. And I watched it over the weekend. I was like, oh, I'll watch a couple episodes, get ready for these ladies. And I was just burning through. Like, it was so intense and just so much. And there's so many questions I want to ask you about. But Sarah, Rain, I'll let one of you take the sort of lead of telling me about what the Wilds is and where we find you guys going into season 2. So who wants to take it? Sarah, Rain? Rain, all right, you're in. Yeah. You got the Princess Leia buns. I feel like a story far, far away is exactly what you're here to tell us. So let's go, girl.
How do I explain it without ruining season 1?
Well, this is the thing. We're gonna have to assume with folks if they're tuning in now, getting ready for season 2, and I've told them. Okay. So it doesn't look like Sophia can join. So let me try her one more time, but keep talking while I do that. Okay.
Okay. So basically, The Wilds is a show about these 8 girls that they were on their way to a vacation, so to speak, this feminist vacation for young teen girls. And they go, plane crashes, they're stranded on an island, but little do they know it's actually a part of a social experiment. And so where we leave off from season 1 is you see them go through that journey between present on the island, past in their lives before island, and also future post island. And then when we go into season 2, you're kind of picking up where the girls are on the island from where they leave off in season 1, which is a lot of intense stuff. I don't want to spoil for season 2. But there's also some boys added to the mix as well when you leave off season 1. So there's a and girls island as a part of the social experiment. And it's quite the journey. You see,
that's the word right there.
Go on, and it's it's a wild ride.
It is a journey, and so many of you. Sophia, I don't know what to say. She's trying to join. So if you're watching unavailable, so if not, update your Instagram app. It may be out of date. That's just a little pro tip for you ladies. Anyway, Sarah, I'm going to bring it to you to tell me a bit about your character. And I say this knowing that, let's just say every character in this, you don't really know if who they present themselves is who they are, right? Everybody's got 6 stories, but let's just say, where does your character present herself when we first find her?
In season 2 or season 1?
Season 1, when we first meet her, and then, who is your character that is first presented? I'm trying to keep this as spoilerish less as possible.
Right. I think when you meet Leah in season 1, she's in, apart from being stranded on an island, it's one of the most uncomfortable situations she could imagine herself in. It's a group of women that are very, very different. Hey, Sophia.
Hey,
Sophia! Yay!
I was on the page, the Instagram page. It was about to start live, starting soon, and it never started. And I think that I just froze on.
Well, you're here now. That's all that matters. And Sarah's telling us all.
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
No, you're perfect. I'm glad to see you here. This is the way it was intended. And trust me when I say your fans would have came for me through the internet connection if all 3 of you were not here. I felt their tension when I was having trouble. So I'm so glad all 3 of you are here.
So scary.
And no,
I'm so glad that I could be here to protect you in that way.
No, I should have warned y'all. We do these all the time. It's always something. I used to get so stressed about it, but now I'm like, we'll get it. We'll get it. It's there. Sarah, go right ahead, though. Keep talking about where we find Leah.
Yeah, Leah's a loner. She likes a book more than she likes, I think, a hang. And suddenly she's with all of these people that she has. I think I can speak for all the girls where they have very strong ideas of who each other are. And throughout the first season, I think the audience probably has that as well. These, I think you see them as sort of surface level, and to be fair, they're all 16-year-old girls who are figuring out the world and figuring out who they are, and you see them in this slice of their life that is, like, I think, very in a transition of adolescence into adulthood, and they're forced to grow up really fast. But Leah's very internal. She has deep thoughts and feelings that I think she likes to keep more with herself, and explore that in a book, whether it be the one her ex wrote or a favorite of hers. But yeah, I think her in a group setting is something that is very uncomfortable and new to her, and it's throughout both seasons. I think Leah and the audience realize how she communicates with other people, how there's more strength in numbers, how having that personal relationship with oneself can also be fruitful, and having a personal and intimate relationship with other people. In particular, I think with Fatin and Rachel, those are two relationships that really, I think, ground Leah throughout the story that we explore, and ultimately help her survive this experience on and off the island, hopefully, if we get to explore that more.
Yeah,
And
that's off the island.
I'm,
There's a reason
I'm
why they
dying
call
at these
this,
comments right now. I'm dying.
I saw
They're
you
going
laughing.
on
I've
and
been
on,
looking
and
at
they're,
them.
like, so
Yeah.
sexual.
Can
They're
I
like,
also just
kiss
say,
my lips. Sarah, kiss my lips.
Oh God, don't look at the comments. Trust me, it's sometimes distracting. But go ahead, Rain.
I was gonna say our DP from season 1, Ed Wild, is on, and I just
Oh,
wanted to
hi.
say, hi, Ed.
Hey, I love when the
Didn't
fans
pop up.
of the cruise and stuff. So shout out to him because
Yeah,
the
shout
show
out to
looks
Ed.
great.
Yeah.
So shout out to the DP. I do have to say this too, Sophia. You're coming into this now, and I want you to talk about your character. But I also, since we're already in it, how did you guys film this too? So I want you to tell us about your character, but then also how did y'all film this? Because it seems like probably the worst and best scenario. I'm sure they sent you to like a tropical locale maybe, but you don't get to enjoy it maybe as part of your shoot. Like you're probably in a nice hotel that looks all tropical and nice, but y'all look like you're out in the middle of nowhere. So tell us about your character and what it was like filming on a deserted island, Sophia.
My character, Fatin. Oh, just like as a just
Yeah,
general,
just blank. As blank as possible. Not all of her
she
twists and
sort of
turns.
just doesn't really give any F's, and then like, you know, she finds out something about her family that's really jarring and doesn't really know how to process it, and retaliates with like vengeance and anger and all this stuff, and then she lives a very me life, and then she ends up on the island with the girls, and goes through a whole, you know, journey of discovering how important it is to care about other people other than yourself, you know, and also you know, vital it is.
How vital, yes. So tell me about the filming.
Like vital to survival.
Yeah. Where did you guys film at? Was it Australia? Was it here? Where were you guys filming at for the outside scenes?
The first season we filmed in New Zealand, and the second season we filmed in Australia.
Gosh, it looks absolutely gorgeous in so many different ways. But what was the worst part about filming all day as a shipwrecked person? Was it the makeup? Because you guys,
It's
they
probably
make you look
different
so,
for everyone.
they make
Yeah,
you
the
look
makeup
so
is
sunburned.
intense. The makeup is so intense. It's also uncomfortable.
I loved the makeup. I loved
Even the dry
makeup.
lip.
Oh, I wouldn't let them put the dry lip on me. I couldn't do it.
I always licked it off.
It
No,
tastes
I
so
can't do
bad. It tastes so bad. It tastes like
because
what
you're
I'd imagine poop would taste
dry
like.
while you're out there. So then they have
Yeah.
the top. I was like, yeah, I don't know.
Like I'm doing this naturally.
Yeah, I
I
was
was
like,
saying like I got it.
life now.
Well, that brings me
Yes.
to you then. I mean, one thing I will say is that was what struck me when I was watching. It was just how real they wanted to make it seem like you guys were about the elements. No offense to previous shipwreck shows, but they all seem to have great eyeliner. and like so much makeup. And like they did not give y'all that. So Rain, talk to me about that aspect of it and just signing on. Did you know going into it? How much did you know going into it? Because this show takes so many turns, even in just the first season. Was that all mapped out? And then again, also for folks that haven't seen the show, because like I said, I do think this is a bit of a sleeper hit, whereas it maybe not a lot of folks like myself saw it season 1, but man, this is now I think the perfect time to catch up with it. So yeah, tell us about your character, and then also, yeah, like what did you know going into this?
Well, it changed from the pilot to like when we actually shot, and even after I booked it, there was a few changes about what sport Rachel would actually participate in, because it wasn't originally diver. I think there was gymnast at one point, fencer at one point, but then they settled on diving. And then she actually, season 1, she did have like really bad acne, and that was a part of her story development. So I had to get like prosthetic acne on and things like that, on top of all the other crazy makeup we got done. So yeah, but that was a part of her story. And as people kind of go on and find out, through season 1, she has an eating disorder. So, and it honestly, whereas like kind of Sophia says fat and doesn't really give any F's, Rachel gives too many. You know, she kind of takes herself and the world a little too seriously, to the point where it's detrimental to her health. So that's kind of like the world of Rachel. But as far as the world of the wilds, everybody's trying to figure out what's going on as we're filming it. Like, everybody's like, do you know this? Do you know that? Da, 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 da. But Amy Harris and Sarah Stryker are very like strategic as to who gets to know what, and we all do a really good job of that, like, and kind of holding on to that and figuring out what we need to know for our characters personally. And then everybody kind of it unfolds for everybody when it's time to unfold for everybody. But yeah, we're all on a wild roller coaster anytime we're filming the show.
It seems that way. It seems very
Weirdly,
much jump
though,
out
I
of
feel
the
like I parallel with what my character is going through.
Wow, really? Sorry.
In
You have to
a,
see the show to know how
no,
that's a bold
in
statement.
a very unattached way, because obviously, you know, I'm not stranded on an island, but in a way, you know, I am.
No, that makes sense. No, I mean, I get the one cool thing about the show that struck me immediately is it doesn't matter who you are, no matter how many different ways of humanity you kind of identify with, there's somebody that represents a part of your experience. And sometimes some of them represent parts of it that you didn't see at first. Like, that's been the best part of it. For folks in the comments that are saying the ship name, I am going to acknowledge the ship name, but I'm not going to say it because not everybody knows what that means. This is not like R plus L equals J. If I say that, people are going to know what it means. And this video goes up without the comments, but I see y'all and I know. And yes, we are all there. We all are about it. But yeah, there's so many different, I would say, archetypes to the show. Coming into season 2, what I think is very interesting is it's almost Big Little Lies, in the sense that we find the folks in season 1, and a lot of, I would say, what you would think questions of the season are answered right away. You know, these girls are on an island, you know, like that there's a social experiment being conducted without them. And then there's just a whole host of answers that we don't really deal with in season 1, but we just find out more information to support this first part. And so each one of you gets a hero episode, which I thought was kind of cool, the way they designed it that way. And so I think it's kind of interesting in the sense of like, knowing that that's the way that the show was set up. What was your favorite, you know, I would say sort of like backstory moment, or something that you learned about your character or another character leading into that? Like, what are your favorite moments from these? I would say like the backstory leading into it. And I guess, Sophia, I'll start with you.
Okay. Something I really liked in my episode.
Yeah, leading up, like your character backstory. Yeah,
backstories.
because I loved
And then
every time.
And then I liked the way it was linked to what was happening on the island. You know, because the girls were making fun of her, and then they lost her, and they're looking for her, and she's not there on the island, you know, and you think maybe she's dead, and then it's going to. So I like the way that it plays with that concept. And I also like how it builds the suspense of, because I think everyone going into it is like, okay, I'm gonna either hate or love this character by the end of this episode.
Mm.
And so then you kind of you never know, and then you're like, oh, okay, no, she's actually good. So.
Ah. All right, Sarah, what about you? What did you like from any of the hero moments? Because one of the things I liked in all of those sort of vignettes was seeing the characters just as much as they are on the island in less stressful scenarios. Like the essence of who they are is always going to show up, whether they're in a catastrophe or just dealing with the daily things of their lives. So Sarah, yeah, talk about your, like, what you found about your character in that episode.
Well, you got to see in Leah's backstory, you got to see sort of two little chapters, because it was post-breakup in episode 6 of season 1, and just seeing, it was just really a cool adventure to track where this girl is at in these different moments that, you know, all of these backstories are an exploration of the trauma that these girls went through, that brought them to the island, what got Gretchen interested in them, why they are these perfect test subjects. And then the island is a further exploration of that. When another traumatic event hits, like, what are the things that they're thinking about, that they're holding on to, even while they're trying to survive. I really enjoyed charting the relationship that Leah has with her friend Ian. You know, that's her closest ally, her confidant before she gains these relationships on the island, and understanding where there was friction in that relationship, especially as she's dealing with, when she's in the aftermath of this relationship with Jeff, or in the fallout of that. So I think, especially since Leah is exploring the relationships with the girls, understanding that there was another, seeing how comparing that to her relationship with Ian, because that's really the closest example that we have of friendship in Leah's life. And also, I just love the shout out to Fatin in episode 1 when she's like walking down the hallway and then just thinking about that relationship versus where they're at the end of season 2. They've come a long way.
That's like an understatement of everything else. Rain, I will say too, with all of these characters, I know it's difficult to really sort of like examine them in these backstories carefully, but I think too there's got to be moments about that. That was my phone beeping. There's got to be moments in those scripts that you probably circled as an actor to be like, wow, this was a part of this character I didn't know until you first opened that script. Was there a moment like that for you?
I'm trying to think.
Or later on. I just feel like with so many of these characters, because of the cat and mouse game they played with the story, you guys probably found them through the process of playing them.
Well, yeah, I think, originally I didn't know Rachel had an eating disorder. That was discovered as we went into season 2. And so, I mean, season 1, sorry, not season 2. So we went into season 1 because we shot the pilot a year before we actually shot the first season. Wow. So it was like a lot of time for them to, more so develop the characters and everything like that. So then when we actually started filming season 1, because I was episode 2 and the pilot had already been shot, I was like first up. Yeah. So it was a lot of like learning about what her journey is as a person. And also it plays into how she is on the island. But yeah, I think, and even in season 2, you're kind of trying to track where she is mentally, because she's doing a lot of things post-traumatic event that most people wouldn't do after a traumatic event like that. So you're definitely discovering her as you go along, even as the person playing her. I try and get as much insight as I can, but like I said, Amy Harris and Sarah are very strategic about letting us know different things, so that then when we get to this other part, we're like, oh, that's why you didn't tell me that. So then you're like, okay, this all makes sense now, and it kind of just ties together in a really beautiful way. So it is a really rewarding process, though, to kind of go through and learn these characters and become closer with them, and just see them grow.
Yeah, it is so weird seeing the four of you here because again, I went through this show so quickly that like, and I now know familiar with all of your work outside of this show, but going into that, that's all I had, and so now I'm just like, who's getting Flint, man? Like, where are pills? Like, this is like, where's a waterfall? Like, I'm like, this is like, I feel like we need to be on a Survivor hunt if I have the three of you here on the screen. It's so crazy because yeah, it was a very immersive. Yeah, it's an immersive experience watching the show. Just watching it, you really do feel like the way it felt, you know, I'm going to age myself. The first time people queued up an episode of Lost, they felt that same thing of like, you feel like you're out there with them just trying to survive. And I think that's the survival genre, right? Whether it's Castaway to The Wilds and everything in between. I think when people see people going through those moments, they can't help but think, well, where would I be? Which is where we end up in season 2 in just so many different ways. The show ends up in a place that you didn't think it would be at the beginning of season 1. So Sarah, as the comments are screaming at me to tell us more about season 2, go ahead and set up a little bit of what we can expect in season 2, because it's not just on the island anymore. We can at least say that. The trailer gave that away. I'm not giving anything else away on
that. Yes, season 2 picks up, like you said, answering a lot of the big questions that are hanging over the audience and the characters in season 1. Obviously, there's an addition of the boys, and I think that you know, allows us to experience more of what happened on these islands. You know, you only see so much in season 1 and season 2. If you saw everything, we'd be here for a lot longer than 8 episodes. And there's more. All of the characters are unraveling more questions. I think in particular, you know, Fatten has some potential realizations. I don't know. Are we really talking?
I mean, the show just came out on the 6th, so I would say don't go too crazy. But I will tell you, I'm looking at the questions from your fans right now, and they're way worse than anything you were ever going to say as far as just like screaming spoilers in these questions. So I think you're doing fine. So don't worry too hard.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the first episode, there's a connection between these 2 islands that happens.
Yeah.
And I think as big as the questions were at the end of season 1, you're understanding in season 2 just how big this experiment is. Just how far Gretchen has been willing to go, and
the extent of things.
Of things. And I think that is true all the way up until the finale, and leaves us with an even bigger question mark hanging over our heads. That
is what I felt watching it, because I only got through season 1 and 1.5 of season 2 because I have a job and it was already becoming a problem. But I was like, after season 2 episode 1, I was like, are they literally going to put us with an entire new set of questions that are going to be just as frustrating for this whole thing? And I'm glad to see that you're confirming that I was right.
Yeah, I think you realize just how, like, in you know, although there are similarities of events that happen, you know, because obviously Gretchen needs to keep a certain amount of the control variables in these 2 different islands. They do all lead. They're all trying to answer the same question that Gretchen has, which is, does a matriarchal society lead to a more prosperous and peaceful society than a patriarchal one? So they're all trying to answer the same question. It's just 2 different locations, I think, really, in, you know, 7, 8 different subjects. Yeah.
I love to think that conceit proves true, but I think power corrupts absolutely, and I think that's what the show is showing us slowly but surely. Sophia, I'm going to bring this one to you. Both sides
can be corrupted by power.
Yes, exactly. There is no utopia as long as there is inequality. So, right? Anyway, so we want season 2 backstories from Babe Ruthie Dust. And Sophia, I feel like you would be the one to spill the tea. So spill it, girl.
Season 2 backstory?
Spill the tea. We want some backstage stories on season 2. Give me something fun from BTS. Come on.
Oh, like
behind the scenes. Yeah, something fun you guys did to maybe break up the monotony. I know how movie sets or TV sets are. TV, y'all move at a clip, But I have a feeling even at that, you guys definitely had some downtime where you're doing something. Is there Wi-Fi out there?
Yeah, like some of us, fell in love, got married, had kids. No, kids are on the way.
I was like, wait, what?
Um, no, I wish that there was more of that. Like Sarah found someone, but not in the cast.
Well,
Trying to
here, how about
expose
this?
you.
I'm gonna take you off of the hot seat for ratting out things in the cone of TV making silence, and ask you though, the dynamic of the boys and having actual interactions with them. How did that change the dynamic just in general? Because I know that y'all are still like, it's not as if y'all are really separate, but like in the show you are. And so it's like interesting, this idea of like, they're getting closer.
Right. Yeah.
So what was that like, adding that dynamic probably more in season 2?
I was nervous and excited at the same time. I knew it was going to be a cool dynamic shift, because I figured they would be cool and excited at the very least to be there, and that's always nice, especially the second season, because you don't want to be stale, and to have people that are like, wow, ooh, ah, then it sort of like, reminds you what that was like.
Yeah.
And then also I was nervous because I wanted them to be good. I didn't want them to be terrible and ruin the show. So
wow, that's facts. I appreciate that. You're like, look, we got a good thing going here.
I was like, I'm glad that we can be friends, but just so you know, if I watch the show and it's terrible, we will no longer be friends.
So funny. Well, I don't know if
be in your life.
No, they did a good
Goodbye.
job from what I can see.
They're
good.
Job.
They did a good job.
I thought they did a fantastic job.
Well, then Rain,
I mean, they had
to go through it.
Also, so
yeah,
yeah, they already started with the upper hand, but they did a good job.
Love the shade. She's like, they already started winning a little bit, but like they did.
Well, they did, yeah. I mean, they're lucky. They're lucky guys. They're lucky gentlemen. Don't get me wrong.
Fair. I'm gonna bring this one to you, Rain. What's your favorite episode from season 2, if you have one? Just a little tease. You don't have to say exactly what happens on these.
I have favorite moments in episode 1, but
well, you can tell me one of that ones, because that's a great one to preview too, since folks can go queue that up on Amazon Prime right now.
Well, hi. I mean, I'm not trying to be biased, but I had a great time with those scenes with Sarah in episode 1. And it was a scene we really got to pour everything into. And it's always a thrill to be able to do that in acting, to be able to pour everything into it and really have a moment that, like, I mean, not necessarily the circumstance, but just that a lot of people have, where everything just breaks.
Yeah.
And to be able to portray that, it was definitely one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, Sarah, what was that like for you? Because I'm thinking, I know, it's just there's so many intense things that happened in season 1 between all the characters, but particularly yours, and there's just like a lot of very raw emotions that built up over the entire first season that just pour out in season 1. But yeah, what was that like for you filming it, Sarah?
Yeah, I think, Ren, are you talking about the like explosion in episode 1 in season 2? Yeah, it was very difficult. I mean, like, Rain did such an incredible job conveying that grief and loss and desperation for her sister, and that was very hard to be on the receiving end of and stoke that. It's just heartbreaking, and it was heartbreaking on the day, and it's heartbreaking watching it back in the season. It's despite having been away from filming for like a year.
Yeah, it was
a year. Going back to that, we actually shot those scenes too like a month or 2 in, because we went back to New Zealand to shoot the beach scenes, because it was just so it was very important that we had those locations to continue to tell that story, and it's really hard to fake a beach like that. So we got lucky to go back to New Zealand and shoot on a Fitu. but it's sort of daunting to you try to put yourself back in that situation and that headspace where these girls are at. But I, just the cohesion of the group and everyone understanding the story that we told and left off at, I think carried through and allowed us all to be in like the same headspace in order to tell the right story. So yeah, when Rain and the rest of the cast is giving so much, I think it's easier to sort of put yourself in the correct headspace of telling this story.
Yeah. Because all those scenes, everybody was giving so much. From the ones where it was just me and Sarah to the ones like, and even though it was kind of like a brief moment, but where everybody's holding me down, like everybody was acting their butts off in those scenes, and you don't.
And it was
always,
cold.
yeah, and it was cold. It was really, and like everybody just had this like raw emotion of what was happening. And it's not all the time that you get to experience that, let alone with like 7 different people. And we all are pouring everything into the moment. So it's just really rewarding as like an actor and someone who loves the craft to just be in that with so many different people and so many talented people.
I agree. Also, I think this show ruined me for Shellfish forever.
Me too.
Like, I'm not kidding you. I saw that scene. I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to eat an oyster ever again. Like legitimately, it really did some stuff to me in that moment. Because I was at first, I was like, yeah, they're going to make it. And then I was like, no. And the person I was watching it with was like, this is a bad idea. And it made me even more mad that he was like, this is a bad idea.
And they made us these like fake oysters out of jackfruit.
Oh, yeah,
and
jackfruit.
No offense, they were terrible. So bad.
I got a stomach.
I liked them.
You liked them? Oh, I think about it and it makes me want to gag.
I needed lots of ginger ale.
Jackfruit is a great meat substitute, but it needs sauce. There's certain things that can live on alone.
No
Jackfruit
flavor.
is not one of them. Like as a person that tried veganuary and failed 4 years in a row before I figured that out, jackfruit, it's not that tea. All right, we got to get out of here. You ladies have busy schedules. You got more people to send over to the show. I want to thank you all so very much for taking the time. But before you get out of here, besides flooding Amazon Prime to make sure we get Wild Season 3, let folks know what you may have coming out in the near future or where they can find you. And Sophia, I'll start with you.
Nothing.
No, you haven't seen Uncharted, really go see it.
Sophia. Uncharted though is out on VOD now. It just came out on VOD.
So it is on VOD, which I didn't want to be that girl to just like talk about it, but you are awesome and it's awesome.
Thank you.
You can listen to our episode on Rotten Tomatoes is Wrong where I go hard for it.
All right.
Not kidding. Like I'm not just saying it because we're here, but like legitimately, I was like, this is some bull crap. I had too much fun with that movie. I had the worst day of my life, and that movie turned it around. Seriously, I was like thinking I was gonna hate that movie because I was in a bad mood and I went in to watch it, and I was like, this is delightful. You know what
it's very entertaining. It's very entertaining. That's for sure.
I'm
going to watch that now because I'm entertained by you, and I feel like that's
I've peaked, ladies. This is about as good as it gets, so just know it's downhill from here, but I appreciate that. Sarah, what about you, man? Where can folks find you and anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I don't know what the next thing will be for me. The universe will hopefully tell me soon. And but I can tell you what I'm watching. I'm really enjoying Under the Banner of Heaven.
Is that the new Andrew Garfield, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The first 3 episodes came out and now it's weekly, which frustrated me because I was ready to just binge it. Yeah.
Y'all, you're just shouting out the fact that y'all are an all-season show too. Be like, you can get us all together.
Yeah.
That's a great pick too, by the way. I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's really good, and he makes obviously great choices. So, Ray, what about you, man? Where can folks find you, and anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, there's this movie I filmed in 2020 called Love You Anyway, which I lead in, and it's about mental health awareness. So I'm really excited and hope that comes out soon. Hopefully it's coming out this year. There's a movie I filmed back in March called Old Dads with Bill Burr, Bobby Cannavale, Bokeem Woodbine, and that should be hopefully coming out next year. And then I'm filming something with Apple TV that I can't say right now, but it's exciting. So
Give
I
it up.
Yeah, so stay on the socials so you guys can get all the info.
Your fans are very passionate. I've seen the TikToks now. Like I said, I went deep over this past weekend with the Wild. So I thank you all very much for giving me an introduction to a new show that I really, really dig. So thank you all. You have to click yourself out, but I want to thank you again. And again, folks, The Wild season 2 is streaming now on Amazon Prime. If you haven't caught up with season 1, it's streaming there as well. And we will see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, you guys all have to close, and as they close themselves out, I will say goodbye. My name is Jacqueline. Yet again, thank you all for watching. We will be back in a few weeks with some more IG Lives. Again, want to thank Cast of the Wild, Sarah, Sophia, and Rain. Thank you, ladies, and we will